President Obama laid out his agenda for 2012 in his State of the Union speech. Now Republicans are preparing to issue their plan in a new budget. The man behind the plan is Congressman Paul Ryan, chair of the House Budget Committee. And Congressman, welcome back to Fox News Sunday.
Thanks for having me back.
Let's start with the President's State of the Union speech this week and his central argument. The Democrats are looking out for the middle class while Republicans want to protect the rich. Take a look.
We can either settle for a country where a shrinking number of people do really well, while a growing number of Americans barely get by. Or we can restore an economy where everyone gets a fair shot and everyone does their fair share and everyone plays by the same set of rules.
Isn't that a strong, at least, a strong political message?
The irony of this is the president's policies do the exact opposite. What we got, I was there, so I heard this speech a couple of times now. We basically got this. The president can't run on his record. It's a miserable record. He's not going to change his tune and moderate like, say, Bill Clinton did in 1996 because he's really stuck with his ideology. So he has no choice but to divide. And so he is going to run a very divisive campaign for political gain. And he has this concept of fairness and equality where he uses the kind of rhetoric we use, but the policies he's producing will result in crony capitalism, will result in giving more power to the government to supervise our lives, to give us a stagnant economy, where the rich and the powerful are the ones who are picking it. So what I'm trying to say is he is giving us a future of debt, doubt, and decline. He barely even mentioned the budget, the deficit, or the fact that that was the day which marked 1,000 days since the Senate bothered even passing a budget. So it's a record they can't run on. So the president's going to use this divisive rhetoric, and the outcome of these policies is to consolidate power in Washington, where you have crony capitalism, which his rhetoric tries to decry.
All right, but let me pursue this. The president is proposing the Buffett rule, the idea that if you're making at least $1 million a year, that you should pay at least a 30% tax rate. And he's proposing this just as we find out that Mitt Romney, who's a multimillionaire, was paying a 15% tax rate. Again, isn't that on just the simplest basis fair?
If you oversimplify, you could probably make that case. I can get into the tax data. I can get into the fact that the effective tax rates people pay at the higher end are still higher than everybody else. But let's just look at the math. All these tax increases that the president is talking about, they only cover 8% of his proposed spending increases. The other 92% of the president's spending increases are borrowed money. So even if it doesn't even add up, it doesn't even go to the deficit. More to the point, instead of raising taxes, which disproportionately hit small businesses, you've got to remember, 8 out of 10 businesses in America file their taxes as individuals. So the president's saying bringing their top tax rate to 45%, which is the current schedule, is not high enough. I want to go higher than that. That will simply crush job creators, crush job creation. I have a better idea. Instead of raising taxes on producers and small businesses, why don't we just stop subsidizing the wealthy? Stop the crony capitalism, stop the corporate welfare, income test our entitlements. We'd get far more saving in the budget without choking off economic growth.
What do you make of the fact that the White House has basically said that the Buffett rule, this idea of a 30% minimum tax rate, is not going to be in the president's new budget, and they have no idea what it would mean in terms of the deficit?
What we have learned with the president time and again is he is going to put some kind of poll-tested line in a State of the Union address and then have no follow-up whatsoever. We have learned already that the president, who's had 3 years to try and propose real solutions to fix our fiscal crisis, is ducking it. He hasn't put a plan on the table yet. He formed commissions and super committees, so he sort of outsourced the leadership only to decry their results. So we are not getting the kind of leadership we need from the White House at a time when America needs it the most. We have a debt crisis on our horizon. The Senate hasn't budgeted for 1,005 days now. The president isn't even proposing to tackle this fiscal crisis. And so what we need is a new president and a new Senate, and we need to give the country a very specific plan, a set of ideas on how we're going to solve these problems, and let the country choose in November what they want America to become. And we're going to do that.
The president, as you point out rightly, did not even mention deficit reduction until more than half. Well, he did at all, but it was more than halfway through his speech, and then it was only a passing reference. Let's take a look.
When it comes to the deficit, we've already agreed to more than $2 trillion in cuts and savings. But we need to do more. And that means making choices.
But no mention at all of entitlement reform. He talked about using the savings from the wars that we're not going to fight any longer, at least in part, for more spending on infrastructure, which raises the question, is reducing our debt in a serious way? Is that just off the table for 2012?
It appears to, because if the Senate's not going to pass a budget like they haven't for 1,005 days, then nothing happens. That's the way the process works. The House has to pass a budget according to the law by April 15th.
Let me pick up on that, because the Democrats say that this argument, and you've said it several times about 1,000 days, is a bogus argument. They say we passed the Budget Control Act as part of the debt ceiling. I don't want to get too much in the weeds here, but as part of the debt ceiling agreement in August, and in fact that act had even more, was a budget, and had even more teeth than a regular budget.
If that's our solution to our fiscal crisis, then heaven help us. It doesn't come close to fixing the problem. The reason I say not at all with the president, all this war savings, it's mythical money. It's all borrowed money. It's basically saying we're not going to spend all this extra money in Afghanistan and Iraq in the future, and therefore we're going to take that money we would have otherwise borrowed and spend it on all these other programs. The president isn't leading. The president isn't being truthful with the American people about what kind of fiscal train wreck is coming. We're going to be. And we're going to pass budgets to show the country exactly how we propose to fix this problem. And, you know, the thing that's frustrating about this, Chris, is there is an emerging bipartisan consensus on how to fix these big problems. There are Democrats who agree with us on how to do tax reform, get the loopholes out, lower the rates. We're getting a bipartisan consensus on Medicare reform. The problem is the president and his party leaders are out on the left, standing on the sidelines looking in. So what we clearly need is a new White House and a new Senate, and then we can realize this emerging bipartisan consensus on how to fix these problems.
Okay, let's talk about the Republican agenda. The House passed your budget plan. Last year, it didn't go anywhere in the Senate, so obviously it didn't become law. But let's take a look at what you guys passed last year. $5.8 trillion in spending cuts by 2021, eliminate $800 billion in tax increases by repealing Obamacare, tax reform, eliminate deductions while setting a top tax rate both for individuals and businesses of 25%, and major entitlement reform. I know that you're a couple of weeks away from putting out your budget. You said to me here in the green room that you haven't even written it yet, but will it be the same plan or will there be something new?
We're going to be working off it. We're not going backwards or going forwards. We're not backing off of any of our ideas, any of our solutions, but we simply haven't written it yet because, not to get technical, we haven't gotten our baseline from the Congressional Budget Office yet. So I and my members of the Budget Committee will write this budget in March, and then we're going to bring it to the floor. We think we owe the country actual solutions based upon our founding principles to get this country on the right track. The president has dodged his entire presidency. The Senate hasn't budgeted for 1,000 days, and the BCA is hardly a budget.
The Budget Control Act.
The Budget Control Act. That is hardly a budget. It is really devolving and delegating to others to lead. We're going to lead. We're going to pass a budget, and we're going to build upon the kinds of reforms we proposed last time.
Well, let's talk about that, because there's some political problems, if not some substantive problems. Democrats are now saying that they're going to go after anyone who voted for your budget, the Republican budget.
Which is basically every Republican.
Okay. Who voted for it last year, because it would shift Medicare from a guarantee for seniors into, some would say, you call it premium supports, they call it a voucher, but would give seniors money that they could use to buy a private plan. And the Congressional Budget Office says over time that this premium support is going to mean that seniors will have to pay $6,000 more a year for health care.
The Congressional Budget Office also says Medicare is going bankrupt in 2021. The trustees at Medicare say that there's a $37 trillion unfunded liability. If you take a look at our reforms, which don't change any Medicare benefit for a person 55 or above, and says for people 54 and below, when they retire, they'll have a list of guaranteed coverage options offered by Medicare, just like we do in Congress and federal employees have, and we're not going to subsidize the wealthy as much as everybody else, and we're going to subsidize the poor even more. That saves Medicare. That fixes Medicare. Put that in comparison to the president's health care law. This year, he appoints 15 unelected, unaccountable bureaucrats to a board called the IPAB, Independent Payment Advisory Board. And their job is to put price controls and therefore rationing on Medicare for current seniors. So the president's law takes $500 billion out of Medicare to spend on Obamacare, and now he's putting this new rationing board in place, which will lead to denied care to current seniors. So if you want to compare plans, our plan to save and strengthen the program, not change benefits for anybody 55 and above, and the president's plan to start rationing current seniors while still allowing the program to go into bankruptcy, I'm happy to take that debate.
But briefly, the Democrats think that if they play, you guys are going to kill Medicare, or you're going to endanger Medicare, and you're going to make it more expensive for seniors. Even if it's 10 years from now, that's a political winner for them and a loser for you, sir.
They think so, but I would simply say there's an emerging bipartisan consensus that we're on the right track. And the point is, we should be offering solutions to our problems in our country. We shouldn't just be demagoguing other people and offering no solutions. And unfortunately, that's what the president and his party leaders are doing.
All right, I want to talk about demagoguing. You are not endorsing any candidate in the presidential race, but I want to ask you about the tenor of the campaign. You've got Republicans attacking other Republicans now for how they made their money, how they've invested their money, how much they're paying in taxes. Is that the right conversation for Republicans to be having when they're running for president?
Actually,
especially, pardon?
No, go ahead.
Well, no, go ahead.
I don't think so. Actually, I don't think so. I'm chairman of the Presidential Trust at the RNC, so therefore I have to be neutral. But we need to defend the morality of the free enterprise system and upward mobility. We need to defend the morality of a system in America that says you're free to take risks, to make money, to create jobs, and to do it however you want to, so long as it's legal. That's something we should be proud of. We should be proud of people being successful because we want people who've never seen success to become successful. And so it does bother me when some candidates, and there's more than one, go after each other based on their success in the free enterprise system. That's not who we are. That's what Barack Obama is doing to us, and we shouldn't be doing it to ourselves.
So and let's be specific, are Newt Gingrich and Mitt Romney playing into Barack Obama's hands?
I think at the end of the day, this is going to be, the dust is going to settle. What matters to me more...
But right now, are they doing it?
Right now, they're going after each other in a heated debate. You know, look, Rick Perry was saying this stuff about Mitt Romney. But I think when the dust settles, what I care about is, are we giving the country a real affirming choice? We don't want to win an election by default. We don't want to simply run against the president and his stewardship of the economy, which is abysmal. We want to give the country a clear choice of two futures. Do you want the opportunity society with a safety net, or the president's path of debt, doubt, and decline, the welfare state? That's what we think we're going to be able to do. And if we give the country that legitimate choice of two futures, and we win that election, then we have the moral authority and the obligation to save this country.
When you see the tenor of this campaign and what they're talking about, any second thoughts about not getting in this race?
I'm not like that. Look, don't underscore the importance of Congress. And I feel I have a very important role to play in Congress. And Congress is going to have a huge say-so in the next few years. We really only have a small window of opportunity to save this country from a debt crisis, and I'm in the middle of that, and I feel like I have a great chance to play a big role in that in Congress, and so I don't have those kinds of regrets. I don't think like that anyway.
Do you think anybody new could get into this race?
Look, I'm not one of these pundits. I guess your panel will probably get into this. I doubt it. I think, you know, deadlines are passed. I think there are very few states you could even get in it anymore, so I think the field is set. I think it's going to work itself out. And yeah, it's the heat of battle, and they're saying things they probably shouldn't be saying about each other. But what matters at the end of the day here is we're running against Barack Obama, not against each other. But we're not running necessarily against somebody. We're running for reclaiming the American idea at a time when it's threatened more than it ever has before in this country.
Congressman, we want to thank you so much for coming in today. We also want to note that it's your birthday.
That's right.
And your 42nd birthday, and we have a...
You got to be kidding me. Oh, my God. Where did you get this?
Well, we actually...
All right.
I was up all night making it.
Yeah, you were.
You want to cut into that, sucker?
I don't eat sweets.
No, but it's the federal dollar. Don't you want...
Yeah, I see that. Yeah, all right. Well, we need to make more of these for people in this country. Not cakes, dollars.
All right. Do me a favor. Cut into it.
All right. I'll cut into it.
You don't have to eat it.
I'm not going to.
You don't eat sweets, really?
No, not really. I gave it up a long time ago.
Okay. Well, I don't know. But up to now, I very much enjoyed your acquaintance, sir.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
Congressman, thanks very much.
You bet.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.